Right, so our next step is to actually link certain areas of the, as we've been talking about, areas of the 3D model onto our 2D model. Now, this is where it gets a bit fiddly, so I'd be amazed if this works perfectly first time. But what we basically want to do is, so if I find specific areas of this model, and I want to select the elements that I require within here. Now you see there, when I select certain elements, the same corresponding set of elements will be shown over on the right-hand side. So that's where it is located at the moment. And what I can do over on the right-hand side is then move that around. So I can go to sort of select the element group, and then I've got to remember my key prompt. I think it's G, which allows me to actually move that around and position it. Now, one thing I've seen here is that the aspect ratio of the elements is not the same on both. That's not something I came across during my testing for this, so I don't know the exact solution. However, we'll continue, seeing as it's just a basic example. But what you can see I've done is I've positioned that element group onto that particular area. And we can do this with a few different areas. So for example, if I select this section here, that'll be down there. So again, I can move this around. That would be over here. I'll do one here. And then I'm also going to do it so we can change the color of these top sections. So I'll just do one or two of these just as our example. So if I select that one there, again, that's highlighted those elements, and I can move that around. You've also got other options available as well for these element groups, such as rotating them or rescaling them if you need to. So I can say R to rotate. And you can see that as I'm moving them around, it actually does change what's visible on the actual 3D model itself. So you can actually see if you're doing it correctly. So let's go back to my other one I specified just as an initial and make sure that's the right way around. So you can see that as I move that onto my colored section there, it's not doing it in the right configuration. So I might want to rotate that. And then I can use S to rescale. And there we go. Now, the last thing to do is make sure that we've, well, as I said earlier on, the ideal scenario is that you map every single element there to specific areas on your 2D model. That means anywhere that somebody puts something on that box in 2D will get shown in 3D. We're not going to do that in our example just for the sake of simplicity. So what we want to make sure is that all of these other areas aren't interfering. The easiest way I found to do that is just to make sure everything's selected, deselect the islands that we don't want to use, so the ones that we've already positioned, for example. And then the ones that are remaining, I can just click S, rescale those, and just put those into a little tiny corner, which I'm not going to do anything with. So now that's always going to be that color that's on the die line. Okay, 1 second again, just checking my notes. Okay, now that in terms of our configuration, obviously very, very basic and it's not complete in our example here, but methodology wise, that is pretty much all we need to do. So what I can do at this stage is go ahead and export the JSON file. So again, this is where we require that 3 plugin that requires you to have that Blender 2.79 that I was talking about, the specific version of Blender. If I go to File, Export, if I've got the plugin available, I can go 3.js. And then I can just export that into there. Now, chances are you're not going to get this configured perfectly first time when you're trying this out. So you will probably have to come back into Blender eventually and sort of make some tweaks. But in terms of our first foray into Blender, that's all we need to do. We're now ready to actually go and start specifying some things inside MegaEdit itself.